Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
Today we're going to be talking about Ghost Rider, released in 2007, written and directed by Mark Steven Johnson, starring Nicolas Cage, Eva Mendes, Wes Bentley, Peter Fonda. This is a long overdue episode. We apologize for that. We were originally going to do this episode a couple of weeks ago and get it out there for you, but life got in the way, and then I, of course, ended up going to Comic-Con. So I was unavailable last weekend to do it.
Lucky.
Which was a lot of fun.
Lucky guy.
This was an adaptation, of course, of the Marvel comic book character Ghost Rider. This was, I have to mention, Mark Steven Johnson's second attempt at a superhero movie. His first attempt being Daredevil. And this movie did not do so well either, I don't believe. Critically, it obviously did not do well. And so I think this was...
It had a sequel.
It did have a sequel, but I don't know... it was many years later, too.
Yeah, I don't think it was... I don't remember it being a big hit.
The sequel wasn't a big hit either. The sequel... I like the sequel more than this one, but the sequel's not very good either.
Mm-hmm.
But it has... I like the look of the sequel. And that one does have a writing credit by David S. Goyer, but I believe his original script got changed quite a bit for the final product. David S. Goyer is actually a producer on this film.
Oh yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I just saw that Mark Steven Johnson's first writing credit is Grumpy Old Men, which is a great movie.
That's right. He did Grumpy Old Men and Grumpier Old Men.
I wasn't the biggest fan of Grumpy Old Men, but I've only seen it like once.
Yeah.
Grumpy Old Men was actually one of those movies, like middle school time, high school time. I watched that movie like a lot.
Yeah, I'm actually the opposite. I've seen Grumpier Old Men more than Grumpy Old Men. And I really, as a kid, really liked Grumpier Old Men a lot. Not that I don't like Grumpy Old Men, but I just haven't seen it nearly as much.
That's crazy.
Yeah. My fiance, I've had this kind of conversation with her. She has seen Home Alone 2 more than Home Alone 1, and so in her mind, she likes Home Alone 2 more than the first one, and I can't get behind that.
Blasphemy.
So anyway, Ghost Rider, Nicolas Cage, who did not, we did not get to see him as Superman. That movie failed to come to be. If you've not seen the documentary The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, it's worth checking out. Mainly, it's interesting because of all the stories, but it's also worth checking out just so you can see some of the costume test footage.
Right. Not just that, but just the ideas that they had.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it would have been very good. It would have been the weirdest Superman movie to ever have come out, and I can't imagine it would have done well.
A big misconception is that...
Interesting to see.
A big misconception is that costume that a lot of people have seen with the black and the like colored lightning or whatever it is all going through it. It was supposed to just be for a short scene.
Yeah, it was basically his after he died and he was kind of being revived in the, I don't know what you would call it, revival chamber? I don't know. That was kind of the suit that he was wearing as he was coming back to life, I believe. Right. There is some footage of him in costume, some test costumes in, trying it on and whatnot. And then there's some photos. If you Google search Nicolas Cage Superman, there's some photos of him in a kind of brighter blue, more kind of more of the typical Superman costume, even though it is kind of that rubbery kind of Batman looking material. It still kind of looks a little ridiculous, but at the same time, I wish I could go visit some alternate universe where that movie actually got made and was released so that I could watch that movie.
Yeah.
Just because I think it would be crazy. But anyway, so he didn't get to play Superman, so he decided to, I guess, accept the offer to play one of his other favorite characters, which is Ghost Rider.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly, Nicolas Cage has a Ghost Rider tattoo that had to be covered up for this film.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Why would
So what did
he
you
have a
think? Was this your
tattoo?
first time seeing Ghost Rider?
Yes, it was.
What did you think?
I thought it was one of the weaker superhero movies I've seen, definitely.
Yeah.
I kind of felt to me like I was watching Blade mixed with Green Lantern mixed with I can't remember the other movie I was thinking of. But there was like a third superhero movie in there that I was kind of lumping it in there. Maybe Daredevil?
Yeah,
and
I could see that.
That could be because of Mark Steven Johnson.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, I saw this in the theater. I was, pretty much any time a comic book superhero movie comes out, I try to see it in the theater. And I actually liked it the first time I saw it. And then I went to go see it again with a friend of mine. He wanted to see it, and I said, I didn't mind sitting through it again. And I remember the second time seeing it, it felt so long. I remember I did not have the pleasant experience that I had the first time around.
Yeah.
And so, and then watching it again this time, it didn't, I hadn't seen it in years. I probably hadn't watched it since I saw it in the theater. It didn't feel quite as long, but it did feel not that great.
Right. Yeah, it's got the old, like the first generation superhero movie feel to it.
Yeah.
Pre-Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
That was actually the movie I was thinking of, not Daredevil. It was more like Fantastic Four.
Yeah, okay.
Like the original. And it felt like it wasn't really being taken seriously enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost felt like one of those teenage like vampire movies with the way they handled Wes Bentley's character Blackheart.
Yeah.
I just couldn't really get into it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Comparing it to Fantastic Four actually kind of, I feel like, strikes true. I don't know if I would have thought of that on my own, but you're right. Especially the first, half of the movie with Johnny Blaze's, backstory with his father, and then even when we fast forward to Johnny Blaze in present day, where he's jumping the helicopters and everything, it just feels too kind of light. Like, exactly. I feel like Ghost Rider, obviously they wanted it to be a PG-13 movie. PG-13 movies make more money. But I feel like Ghost Rider could easily be an R-rated franchise.
Right.
Like Blade or something.
It should be.
I feel like it should be.
The comic was very dark. I had one. I don't remember a lot about the Ghost Rider character from the comics, but I do, I knew who he was. I think I did. I had an action figure of him. Lots of trading cards. Mm-hmm. And the comic that I had, was very dark. Like there was like a couple cuss words in there, which I was like in elementary school when I was like, oh, what?
Right.
So I don't know who designed it, but it's almost it fits more with like the Spawn style.
Yeah.
Than X-Men and the more traditional superhero stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right, and so the movie, I would say it has quite a few problems, but I think, just the first half of the movie just has kind of this light-hearted feel to it, even though it does have these darker elements, like him selling his soul to the devil and
right.
And all this stuff, his dad dying and things, and so it's kind of this heavy material, but done in a light way, and it just doesn't really work. And then I thought a lot of the writing was kind of weak. It just felt like a lot of the dialogue was kind of forced, especially when we fast forward to Nicolas Cage in his adult years. His friend Mac is saying things like, you should be taking a dirt nap after that fall today. And like, a lot of his lines talking about how like you keep pushing yourself to the edge type stuff, just
right.
I don't know. It just felt very weak in my opinion. And then, we can get into this a little later, but the whole love story between Eva Mendes and Nicolas Cage's character, just I didn't buy that. I thought her character was really weakly written. Her character was weak.
I mean, I didn't mind, like, as far as her acting went, like, she was okay.
Yeah, her acting's fine. I think it's just her character doesn't have a whole lot to do. It's just she shows up to interview Johnny Blaze. He doesn't really give a great interview. She leaves. He, like, chases her down, then he stands her up, and she's, like, mad. I don't know. She's basically just there to be a love interest, I feel like, and then for him to save at the end. There's not a whole lot of meat to that role.
Yeah. You're right. They just kind of ended up, after all that, just having her be the ransom.
Yeah.
A ransomed character. So.
The damsel in distress. That's the phrase I was looking for. The damsel in distress.
I did get a chuckle out of his interview, though, when he has that, like, brain freeze moment and just stares off into space. And he's like, and then his answer is just, yeah. And then when he rides up next to, was it?
Chases her down the highway.
Yeah, chases her down. And he does a couple goofy things. I don't think I'm the biggest Nicolas Cage fan. I think I've kind of realized after watching this. Like, I liked him okay in National Treasure.
Yeah.
The Rock, he was good in.
Yeah. It depends. I think it really just depends on the movie. I mean, I like Nicolas Cage in the right role, and then other movies, he does a lot of bad movies, and I don't know why. But like, there's those movies that are currently on Netflix, like Rage and Stolen and things like that. Those movies are terrible. But I really want, now that you've seen the first Ghost Rider, it'll be a while, I'm sure, before we do an episode on the second Ghost Rider. But I really want you to see the second one, because I feel like the filmmakers just told Nicolas Cage, you know what? Just go crazy. Because he just runs with it. And he's so, in my opinion, he's so funny in the second movie, just because he goes so off the wall.
Yeah.
That is entertaining. But in this film, it's like he wanted to go crazy with it, but then they wouldn't really let him. And so he had to kind of hold it back a little, and I don't think he does well when he's held back.
Right.
And I just think the script is weak, and so I don't think there was enough for him to really kind of work off of there. And he just did what he could. But no, I agree. I know a lot of people who don't like Nicolas Cage. But I would say, Face Off, I think he was allowed to go crazy, and he did really well in it.
I still need to see that movie.
You haven't seen Face Off?
I don't think I've seen Face Off. I don't think I have.
Holy cow, dude. That's a shame, because I really feel like you should have seen that movie in the 90s.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of movies that are like that. One that I was okay was The Rock. That was one that you kind of would say, yeah, you should have seen it in the 90s, but I watched it mid-2000. Yeah. And I really, really liked The Rock.
Well, that's good. Maybe you'll really... I love Face Off. It's ridiculous, but I think when you watch Face Off, if you can kind of put yourself... Try to imagine, like, the 14-year-old you watching it.
Right.
And I think maybe you'll enjoy it.
And movies like Speed and stuff coming out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Face Off. We might almost have to do an episode on Face Off, just so that you can so I can make sure you watch that movie.
Okay.
That movie's great. So anyway, yeah, so Nicolas Cage in the right role, I think, does really well, and I think obviously he's a Ghost Rider fan, which is why he decided to probably take on the role, but it just didn't,
They portrayed his character really well, Ghost Rider. Like, the design. You've got the flaming skull. They just went really traditional with it.
Yep.
Then he gets, even the first cut, I didn't know, I had forgotten about the spikes and stuff, because he's just wearing that leather jacket.
Yeah.
And then later on in the movie, he steals one from another guy, and then all of a sudden these spikes come out of his shoulders. I'm like, where did those come from?
Yeah.
But when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, that's actually the design how they designed him and drew him.
Yeah.
Was with those, and he had like the studded bracelets and stuff.
Yeah.
He was very punk / biker.
Yeah. That is exactly how I knew Ghost Rider as well, and I think that's the one thing I really like about this movie is I actually like how Ghost Rider looks in. They don't do the spiked jacket and stuff like that in the second Ghost Rider, but the flaming head I think looks really, really good in the second film. But I really like in this film how he's got the kind of classic '90s look.
Yeah.
I did a little research on Ghost Rider because I don't know a whole lot about him either. I knew him, from the Marvel cards, and I knew, I'd seen him obviously, but I didn't know much about his character. And Johnny Blaze's history is pretty much how it is in the movie. He sold his soul to help his dad, and he was a stunt motorcycle guy. But the look of Ghost Rider that you and I are familiar with, I believe, is actually a character named Daniel Ketch, who came after Johnny Blaze. And he's the one that had the spiked shoulders, and he had the chain that he wore around his chest.
Yeah, I was going to say they did the chain,
yep,
which was a part of the outfit.
And apparently, the Daniel Ketch character is the one who had the penance stare. And apparently, I guess later on they gave that to Johnny Blaze. Johnny Blaze comes back in later issues, but Johnny Blaze was only in the comics from 72 to 83 or something like that, and then Daniel Ketch was introduced in 1990. So I believe.
Yeah, so then he would have been the Ghost Rider that.
Yeah, and he had the motorcycle that I was used to seeing. He had kind of a. It also had kind of. From what I read, had a front that worked as a battering ram. So it had more of a 90s kind of motorcycle look to it, and that's the one thing I don't like about this Ghost Rider film is I really don't like the look of the motorcycle when it gets all flamey.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I just don't like the design of it. I like the design of Ghost Rider in the film, but the motorcycle I think is a little weak, and I think it's mostly just because I'm used to that 90s version of the motorcycle. But yeah, I have to praise Mark Steven Johnson at least for going with that 90s spiked, look.
Yeah,
having the chain and all that.
Yeah, keeping the flame wheels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I liked. Yeah, definitely. It definitely was Ghost Rider as far as physical appearance goes.
Yep.
But that's actually, I think, really the only thing I liked about the movie.
Yeah, and that's pretty much. There's some scenes with Ghost Rider that I like. I think I watched. This was actually the first time I watched the extended cut, and there's a scene where he kind of battles a helicopter, which was really kind of pointless, and I understood why they cut it out. But that was kind of cool to watch, and him driving up the building and all that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I'll give him the driving up the building, and I remembered that from the trailer.
Yeah,
and that weird girl that was talking like the eyewitness.
Yeah,
girl.
that's Rebel Wilson.
Oh wow!
Who was in Pitch Perfect and stuff. That apparently was her first movie role.
Yeah, she's hilarious, by the way.
Yeah. I
think she's really funny. But I remember that scene, too, where she was did the sound effect for the fire and everything.
Right.
Going back to talking about the beginning where the dad, his Johnny Blaze's dad is, Barton Blaze is his name. Yeah. I'm reading that right now. And the very first time you hear him talking to Johnny about things he needs to be doing, it sounded like Chris Cooper.
Oh, yeah?
From American Beauty to me. In fact, I first thought it was Chris Cooper.
Oh, that's funny.
And to my surprise, about 30 minutes later, Wes Bentley comes on screen. Which I thought was crazy, because if those of you don't know, he plays the son of Chris Cooper in American Beauty, who the scene was reminding me of exactly like that.
Wes Bentley, I think, is probably my least favorite part of. Well, I don't know if it's my least favorite part of this movie, but I feel like he was just not the right choice to play Blackheart.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about Blackheart. The only villain I know from Ghost Rider is Vengeance,
right?
Who is, I'm assuming, in the second film, since it's called The Spirit of Vengeance.
I actually don't know who Vengeance is. I'm sorry.
Vengeance is basically the alter ego of Ghost Rider. He's like Ghost Rider. He's got the flaming skull. He rides a bike.
Oh, I don't think he is in the movie then.
Interesting.
I don't know much about Blackheart either, but I just know that Wes Bentley is not a very convincing villain. That's mainly my beef with it. The delivery of lines and things like that, I wasn't buying it. He's just not very... He's not scary.
He's very soft looking and sounding.
And so when he tries to be menacing, it's like, feels like somebody's trying to be menacing.
Yeah, and he's actually the reason I brought up, kind of like that teenage, like Twilight style, was actually, mainly because of his acting. I haven't seen him in anything else except American Beauty, I don't think.
I've seen him in some other stuff. He most recently was in
he was in Hunger Games.
Hunger Games, yeah.
Yeah. And I liked him in that.
Mm-hmm.
I still haven't seen Interstellar, so I don't know what character he plays in that.
Oh yeah, I forgot he's in Interstellar. I've seen that. What did you think about Peter Fonda as the devil?
I was very disappointed in his performance.
Yeah?
I thought he was very dry and it felt like made-for-TV movie acting. Personally.
Yeah. It's, I don't know, I wonder if Peter Fonda just needed the paycheck or something, but yeah, Wes Bentley, I feel like, is harder to watch than Peter Fonda. I'd rather have scenes with Peter Fonda than Blackheart. But, again, it's just, he's supposed to be the devil, and he kind of comes across as not somebody that menacing or scary either.
Yeah.
I did like one scene with him. It's in the beginning of the film where I believe it's right before Johnny Blaze signs the deal. He's in the tent with Johnny Blaze, and there's a flash of lightning, and his shadow
right
on the tent wall is like this kind of hunched over, kind of creepy looking demon character.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of cool.
Really? I kind of rolled my eyes at that.
Oh, really?
That
you didn't like that? I thought that was all right.
And they did that a few times too, where they'd have something happen where they'd show like the face of a demon that was in human form, and then they'd show like
they
weird,
went a little overboard on
mouth,
that.
And it didn't look good. Like it just looked like it was a CGI'd mouth over, and of course it was the technology that they had at the time.
Yeah, but I mean, Ghost Rider didn't look terrible, so maybe they just put all their money into making Ghost Rider look good, and they didn't have any money left over for those effects.
Yeah, I thought they could have done without that stuff.
I agree with you. I feel like there's a few things, I think, where Mark Steven Johnson does like kind of an effect shot, which really I feel is unnecessary. He did the same thing in Daredevil a couple times, where it'd be like, and specifically I'm thinking of in Daredevil where it's like the reflection of the flaming double D in the beginning of the film that's in Urich's glasses.
Yeah.
It's just like things like that. It's just like cool shots that really don't really add a whole lot, but are effects shots.
Now, I said when we did the Daredevil episode that I thought that could have been his like calling card.
Right.
Was that? I didn't really find any evidence for that, except that there was a Daredevil comic cover.
Oh, really?
That had the D's in flames. So that's probably where they got that from.
Yeah, probably. I thought you meant there was a Daredevil cover in the movie. I was like, oh, that's cool. He put a little Daredevil comic in the Ghost Rider, but I guess not. I see what you're saying.
I'm talking about Daredevil the movie.
Right.
Briefly, so.
The only other character I can really think of is Sam Elliott's character. What did you think about his character?
Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott is the old Ghost Rider, if you will.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, Sam Elliott did a great job. I liked his performance a lot. I think I just like his voice.
Yeah, I do too.
I just like listening to him talk. And he looks good with that long hair and like that Tom Selleck mustache.
Yeah, yeah.
And to have him be like an old cowboy, character just really worked. So that was a good point of the movie.
Yep. I'm forgetting what his character's name is. I watched this movie a few weeks ago before I went to Comic-Con. But
I
did
his
some
initials are like S or CS, I think.
Yeah, Carter Slade, right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
I did a little research. That character was the original Ghost Rider in, I'm assuming, Marvel Comics, but he wasn't anything like the Ghost Rider that we know now. He was a Western character who wore like a white mask, and he just was. I don't think he had any superpowers. I think he was just kind of good at what he did and whatever. And so he went by the name of Ghost Rider, and then eventually they came up with this new Ghost Rider. So he's kind of a nod to the original Ghost Rider, but then they make him the kind of the flaming skull Ghost Rider that we know. But I like that character. He's kind of the wise mentor that Johnny Blaze learns from.
Right.
So
it reminded me of who played the guy in Blade.
Chris Christopherson's Whistler.
Yeah,
exactly. It's kind of like that. And so I like that character, and I don't know if it's cliche to have a mentor character or not, but it worked in this film okay. But my biggest beef with his character is he's like, I'm going to ride with you, and he gets a flaming skull, and his horse is on fire, and then they do this cool, ride through the desert kind of shot with both of them, and then they get to their destination, and he's like,
right.
He goes, I only had one last ride in me, and I'm like, if I was Johnny Blaze, I'd be like, well, what did you waste it on just riding here for? Like, you could help me with this. And instead he's like, all right,
now you gotta go all the way back.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be like, we could have ridden slower to get here so that you could have flamed on and helped me with this fight. So I thought it was obviously just Mark Steven Johnson just wanted that cool shot of them riding through the desert side by side.
Yeah.
But didn't want him to be in the final battle. I think it would have worked better if he had started helping out and was murdered or something.
Right,
something
exactly. Off. It doesn't make any sense. Absolutely, it doesn't make any sense for him to come all that way and then just say, "All right, well, have fun."
That was all I had. So that's like that's like one of the biggest issues with the film is that scene right there. I thought that was so dumb.
Right after that scene, Ghost Rider is riding through the swamp, like very, very cautiously. There's this creepy swamp that he's got to go through. And first of all, why is Blaze going to ride a motorcycle through a swamp? That was the first thing I saw.
Right.
Then the water demon guy, I think his name was Wallow. I think it was Wallow.
Okay.
Comes out, grabs him, and pulls him underwater.
Right.
So what exactly was this motorcycle riding on?
And he's not Ghost Rider in this, right? I'm trying to remember.
He's not.
I remember
he's in human form. He's Johnny Blaze.
So his bike doesn't have any powers at the moment. Because apparently when the bike is on fire, it can ride on water and it can ride up buildings and all that.
Right. Well, actually, while he's under the water, that's when his head explodes into flames. And I think he does like the stare.
Yeah.
But anyway, when he comes back out, his bike is on shore waiting for him on the other side. Which I actually was actually kind of okay with that because like when I saw that, that's when I was like, you know what? That's just movie stuff. Like, I know I get nitpicky about certain things.
Yeah.
But, like, sometimes you got to be like, okay, yeah, his bike's waiting, especially for movies like this. I don't have to be too forgiving.
The only way I could justify that is because his bike has, powers as well
right.
When he's in, I don't know what to call it, when he's on fire mode. I would assume that maybe if the bike fell under... I have no idea what the bike was riding on, like you're saying. Obviously, it's buoyant, and he was able to just float across the water on his bike. But I'm going to say that when he goes into fire mode, the bike kind of surfaced and then parked itself, waiting patiently for Johnny Blaze right. to get out of the water.
Yeah. He's like, he'll be out in about
10
seconds. Any second now.
He's got this.
Yeah, and it kind of gave that indication too, because like he looks at the bike when he like comes crawling up, like gasping for air, and then his bike's there, and then like I think the headlights, or I guess they're not headlights. It's like, flames that are coming through. But it just kind of revs its motor and stuff. So you get that little sense that it's got its own soul or whatever.
Right. And that's kind of a cool idea. That it's almost a living thing.
Right.
I almost forgot about those 3 demon characters until you mentioned it. Like I said, I watched this movie a couple weeks ago. We were originally supposed to do this podcast probably 2 weeks ago. But that...
Yeah, you had to go do something like Comic-Con?
Yeah. Who does that? So I'm trying to remember it. I should have probably watched it again, but I didn't really feel like sitting through the movie again.
I don't blame you.
But those 3 demon characters, not super impressed by them either. I don't know. Trying to think. There was the wind guy, there was the water guy, and then there was a third one, right?
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be like solid liquid gas.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I don't know. I don't recall what the other guy did. I kind of was trying to watch for it, and I think he got taken out pretty early.
Yeah.
But like the one thing I do remember seeing him do was nail Ghost Rider with a moving, like a semi.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
So I think that was kind of supposed to be like his solid aspect.
Right. So solid, liquid, and a gas. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
They got defeated pretty easily, though, all 3 of them. I feel like the wind guy was the only one that kind of gave Ghost Rider a challenge for half a second, and then he used his chain.
To make a
tornado. And that apparently kills the wind guy. You'd think more wind would help the wind.
He's like, you're just making me stronger.
Right. He's like, oh no. But apparently that killed him off. But I don't know if those characters were creations for the movie or if they existed in the comics. I'm assuming they existed in the comics, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in the comics.
I apologize for my lack of knowledge of Ghost Rider, but all I really know is that his name was Johnny Blaze and his head was on fire.
Yeah, I mean, Ghost Rider is... we kind of focus on the more mainstream characters. And Ghost Rider is mainstream, but he's like kind of off to the side mainstream.
A kind of a B character?
Yeah.
Which, a lot of people, I think, would have said Iron Man was a B character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until the movies came out, pretty much, and now everybody knows who Iron Man is.
Yeah, now if you've got a Marvel property, Iron Man's going to be on it, like on the front.
Yeah.
Who knows? That and that's something that's weird to think about is, a character that is like that might someday be up front running.
Mm-hmm. Just got to have the right movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And this was not the right movie for Ghost Rider.
No, you think we'll ever get another one?
I don't know.
Like a reboot?
Yeah, maybe. But I don't think we're going to... I still don't know if we'd get... Hopefully, if they ever do decide to reboot it, hopefully they would do an R-rated reboot. Somebody could convince them to do that. I don't know if it's going to happen, though, because I just read that Ghost Rider is actually going to be on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know how that's going to go, but apparently he's going to be on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Interesting.
Which almost makes me want to watch Agents of... I don't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Not that I think anything's wrong with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I just have never checked it out, really. But it almost makes me kind of want to get into it to see how Ghost Rider looks. But maybe I'll just wait for the Ghost Rider episode to see how he looks and then go from there.
Yeah. And technically they could bring him into the movies through that. Yeah,
they could. I mean, he'd be a part of the Marvel Universe at that point. Just like Daredevil's a part of the Marvel Universe and Jessica Jones and soon to be Luke Cage. Well, Luke Cage, I guess, was on Jessica Jones, but he's about to have his own show.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they ever will. So, Ghost Rider's voice. The first time I saw the film, I guess I just didn't expect him to talk. I'm sure he talks in the comics, but it's one thing to have like a dialogue bubble in it. You know how for characters with kind of darker voices, they'll have it like in different lettering, and they'll have the bubble won't look nice and clear and oval shaped. It'll have kind of these messiness to it. It's one thing to have that in the comics, but then to hear it in a movie, I remember the first time I saw it, I didn't like it. But I think this time around, it actually wasn't terrible. But what did you think?
I didn't mind his voice. Yeah, I mean, it didn't throw me off or anything by hearing it. So yeah, I was fine with that. I didn't like going back to Blackheart. I didn't really like how they did him with, like, sometimes I'm cool with, double voices where you have one like a normal voice and then you have a like little bit quieter demonic voice in the background at the same time. But his version kind of annoyed me.
Pretty much everything about Blackheart in this movie kind of annoyed me.
Yeah. I am anxious to see Spirit of Vengeance.
Mm-hmm. It's in my opinion, and I haven't seen it since I saw it in the theater, so you have to take that in consideration, but I like it better than this film, but it also has problems. I don't remember what all those problems are, but I remember being really excited about seeing it when it was coming out, because I thought they were going to do, what in my opinion was Ghost Rider correctly, because I don't know that much about Ghost Rider, but it just looked like a better version of Ghost Rider than the first film.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to go see the movie, and I remember being a little disappointed with it.
I can't believe that Vengeance is apparently not in the movie.
Unless, like I said, I haven't seen it since I saw it in the theater, but from what you've said about Vengeance, I don't think he's in the movie, unless they changed his character completely.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe they just were like, well, we've done... At this point, Iron Man had come out.
Yeah.
And, Spider-Man 3 and all that. Maybe they were just like, we've done the clone villain too many times, let's do something different. Yeah. I don't know. But that's something that, like I said, that's the one villain that I know about is Vengeance.
Yeah.
And that kind of sparked my interest to see. That's kind of, I guess, the only real interest I would have in seeing the sequel.
Well, sorry to burst that bubble, but like I said, it's possible. I just went through the cast list on IMDb and I didn't see the name Vengeance. So unless it goes by another name, and they've changed him completely, because there's the only person that I remember with a flaming head in Ghost Rider 2 is Ghost Rider.
Right. So if they changed his name and character, that pretty much doesn't make him Vengeance.
Right. It's safe to say he's not in the movie.
Yeah. But it's kind of like, with the second Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer. And, yeah, you had Silver Surfer in it. But I was like, well, you got Silver Surfer in it. Are they going to have Galactus?
Right.
And I was super stoked about that, and nothing.
They ruined that
Except a very faint silhouette for like Galactus, a flash of a second. Yeah.
Yep. And they can't seem to get Fantastic Four right.
No, I actually just watched that movie for the first time.
The new one?
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole episode right there, but real quick, what'd you think?
It wasn't good.
No, it wasn't.
I didn't think it was like the worst superhero movie that I've ever seen, like a lot of people were saying, but it was definitely not good.
Yeah.
And it got worse as it went on.
Yeah. I feel like it had a fairly strong beginning.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't say strong, but it felt promising. It wasn't bad.
And then it completely falls apart. And it's, the director has said that the studios had really gotten their hands in there and messed with it. So I really do wish I could have kind of seen. I don't know if it would have redeemed the movie, but I wonder how much better the director's cut was.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we'll probably never see it.
Yeah. Or a sequel.
the score in this film I thought was all right. I think I kind of liked the little elements of I can't think of the piece of music, but the kind of the dun 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 dun. Didn't they have that in there a little bit? Like during the scene where the two Ghost Riders were riding through the desert? Wasn't there a little bit of that music? Am I wrong?
What do you mean by that music?
That, what is it, that William Tell Overture or something like that? Dun, 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 dun. Wasn't that kind of in there a little bit?
I gotcha. I thought you were doing Barracuda for a second. I was like, yeah, there's some rock elements to it.
Well, I felt really dumb after doing it because you just were staring at me, and I was like, am I not? I was like, is it not this movie that has that in there? I was like, I was getting really nervous that I was completely
gotcha.
About
yeah, that. Yeah, no, you're right. There was during that scene there was kind of a Western, tone to which I liked. I also liked for the most part that they tried to do, throw like biker rock kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe could have been done a little better, but I liked the idea.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess it's one of our shorter episodes, but I don't really have a whole lot much else to say, so I think we'll just go ahead and get into the rating of it.
Man, I was going to give it 2 stars out of 5, but since we've been talking about it, and since I've had a couple nights to let it sink in, I might give this a 1 out of 5 stars.
Which, according to Netflix, would mean you hated it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I sitting here and talking about it, I feel like I should be giving this movie an F. But I don't know if there's going to be a superhero movie that I ever give an F to. I probably should, but because of the look of Ghost Rider and the couple of scenes of Ghost Rider that I enjoy, that redeems it up just slightly, and I'm going to give it a D.
A D. Gotcha.
Which is, I think, probably the lowest grade I've given on the show.
Yeah. See, for me, like, it's hard to say that I hated this movie.
Yeah.
That's not really accurate.
Right.
But I want to say that it's below me disliking the movie. So I'm gonna stick with my 1 star.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's kind of how I feel about it. I certainly don't hate it, but it's more of just not liking it.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad, and so. Yeah,
I'm never gonna watch this movie again. So.
I don't know if I would ever. I mean, I don't know. 10 years down the road, I could see myself popping it in and then wondering why I popped it in. But
right.
But I don't know. Yeah. Well, I'm curious. Now it makes me want to watch the second one since it's been a while since I've seen it and since you've never seen it. But I won't subject you to more Ghost Rider just yet. We'll wait a little while before we.
That sounds good. Thank you. I got a big chuckle. I did get a big chuckle out of the field goal to field goal jump. Talk about stretching reality
over the helicopters and all that. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, he's like I said, he's a stunt motorcycle jumper guy, whatever. And I don't know if he's just a jumper, but he's a stunt motorcyclist in the comics. So I don't know. I'm guessing he was modeled after like Evel Knievel, but I feel like there's other things you can do than just jumping over helicopters.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. I mean, he picked it because of his dad.
Right. I get that. His dad thought, how cool would it be jump over a helicopter?
Right.
But
the last thing I'll say about Ghost Rider and just the character in general, I love his whip, his chain whip.
Yeah.
That is just extremely exaggeratingly long.
Yeah.
He should not be able to wield that thing the way he does, but it just looks so cool doing it.
Apparently in the comics, again with that Daniel Ketch, he's the Ghost Rider, I guess, that had the chain. That chain can extend in length due to his will. So that might, they didn't really go into that in the movie. Just looked like a really long chain, but apparently in the comics he can make that chain as long as he really kind of needs it to be. And he uses that chain in the second film, too, and it's pretty cool.
So he's basically on the verge of becoming a Green Lantern.
Yes, exactly right. The little research I did on Ghost Rider today, they were talking about how, I guess I don't know if it was in the 90s he was this way, but I guess the current version of Ghost Rider is one of the most powerful characters in the Marvel Universe.
I mean, he is a demon, technically.
Yeah. They say, let's see here. It is possible that they are genuinely immortal. They possess formidable superhuman strength. Virtually indestructible and notoriously hard to injure. Oh, I thought this was interesting. So it says here that bullets and knives usually pass through them without causing pain. And it says in the comics, knives are seen to melt while in their body. But in the movie, Ghost Rider is stabbed in the shoulder, and when he turns back into his human form, he has to get stitched up by Sam Elliott's character. So that knife did injure him.
It did.
While he was Ghost Rider.
But the knife did melt.
But it did melt. So I guess, I mean, and I can kind of understand why they would do something like that, because if you make a character virtually indestructible, then there's really if you know that there's no chance that he's going to get hurt or die,
right?
Then,
I mean, you can do it. You just got to make a really good story.
Right.
Which, yeah.
They did not do.
No.
Well, we'd love to know what you think about Ghost Rider. If you loved it or hated it, let us know. You can leave us a comment at www.cinemaheroes.com. You can throw us a line on Twitter @CinemaHeroes, or you can go to our Facebook, facebook.com/SM and SM Podcast. I think that about wraps it up for this episode. My name is Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzo.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading.